And you stated a little while ago that you didn't believe that your personal political affiliation or beliefs had any bearing really on your being laid off. Is that correct?
I had no reason to believe that at the time, yes.
Okay. And what was the reason that well, you say in your statement here, DAS argues they achieved operational efficiency, and I guess you disagree with whether or not they achieved efficiencies. Would that be a fair statement?
I'm not sure. What I would say is if they wanted to make a change, they could have done it with some of the existing employees rather than replacing the employees.
All right.
Rather than replacing all of the employees.
But that's the reason that was given, was to achieve some efficiencies. Is that correct?
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Ken, you stated that you were accused of doing some things that you hadn't done. That kind of caught my attention. What kind of things were you accused of?
I was the representative for GSE that went to the vertical infrastructure meetings to ask for funding monies for vertical infrastructure. One of the fund requests I had at the time was for replacement of the tunnel that goes between the Capitol building and the Miller building. The tunnel's old, it's brick, and it's kind of falling apart. I had an architectural company look at it and determine that it could be structurally deficient, although the structural engineer thought it was okay, it could be structurally deficient. So I reviewed that, all of my requests for the vertical infrastructure with Mr. Woodley. I went in front of the committee and I told them about the tunnel. I did a presentation. Mr. Norville was pretty much in shock that I brought that tunnel situation up. And after that, I was accused with colluding with the architect for my own benefit, to somehow make up a project or to make up a story about that tunnel. Well, it doesn't make sense. I don't have any reason. I'm not going to go any further, make any more money than I did. So I was accused of that by Doug Woodley and Ryan Lamb, and I frankly resented that. And they had no proof. They had nothing. They couldn't even bring the architect in front of me that had allegedly said this. So, and then I had a gag order. I was told never ever to talk about it, never ever to mention it, which I did, but not under the gag order now. So.
Is that the only thing you were accused of that you hadn't done?
I mean, it was so heinous that I can't remember everything that I've been accused of or yelled at about, or it was horrible.
But that's the only specific that comes.
That's the only specific thing I can remember right now, yes, sir.
All right. And I think you stated you don't really like politics. You haven't been involved in politics.
I haven't been very political my entire life.
Yes. So you're not alleging that you were laid off because of your political affiliations or political beliefs, is that correct?
No, sir.
Yes. Tony, I had a couple questions here. We've already heard Dean talk about the layoffs, and you were in that department too, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you have the same memory that he does, or 12 or so people laid off?
Yes, sir.
All right. As I understand it, they hired 3 new people that were doing pretty much the same work that those 12 were doing?
Yes, sir.
All right. And I see that you did have one of these confidentiality agreements, is that correct?
I did.
And I'm just kind of wondering, consult to decide that it was okay to come and talk about your settlement and so on when you'd signed an agreement that you wouldn't do it? What
Right.
was your process?
Yeah, I was real hesitant about it. Senator Peterson called me quite some time ago. I didn't return the phone call just recently.
Okay.
So I talked to my lawyer, and my lawyer's opinion was the state has already breached that agreement by posting all of the agreements, the settlements online. So they are already in breach of the agreement, and there's also exclusions in the agreement such that they say subject to Iowa law, et cetera, et cetera. So he feels that the confidentiality agreement really is null and void.
All right. And Carol, I want to ask you the same question I've asked the other folks here. I gathered from your testimony that you're not claiming that you were laid off because of your political affiliation or political beliefs?
No, not really. It's just that I feel that the group of us knew the state laws and knew all of the building codes and all of that and all the various industry standards, and also being a licensed engineer, one of the things that I'm supposed to do, I don't know if it goes just for technical or I think it goes beyond technical, but if I see anything that I think is wrong or some kind of violation, I have to report it or I could lose my license. The way that they were working with contractors and architects and the way they were hiring them was not legal. And I also feel that the group of us knew all of the standards and laws and that we were following them. Perhaps they felt that they couldn't just get us to do what they wanted us to do. I also believe that the people in HR and purchasing that did things that were not legal as far as the state code were in fear that they would lose their jobs if they didn't comply.
Okay, well, I was asking about your personal political beliefs.
Yeah. I have another comment. You were asking about the job that people did in the department, the new people. They split it up. When we were project managers, we did the paperwork and we were in the field meeting with the client and with the contractor. We were hands-on. I understand from talking with the secretary, who I'm still in touch with, that the project manager rarely went in the field, that this other group, the construction management firm, did. So right there's a tremendous lack of continuity. And I think a gap that a lot of mistakes and extra money could fall in. I also found out that they now had the secretary approving invoices and doing iJobs reporting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Change on
No problem, thank you. Carol, for you, just to follow up, a little clarity if I might. So when you work with the Iowa Juvenile Home Project, correct? Were you associated with that? Oh, we got too many mics on.
There, okay.
Go ahead.
I really am an engineer.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. What was that?
My question is, when these new companies were hired
Yes.
by Mr. Carlson, and when they were hired, were a new set of construction bids then in place that would negate any of the PLAs that were in place prior to the new company coming in? I'm just trying to follow.
No, there were projects that were ongoing.
Okay.
There was one at Clarinda to replace all the ceiling support because one of the ceilings in the nursing home wing had fallen down because it was not anchored properly. It was in the very old part of the building that was built around 1900 maybe. And so they were replacing that so that more ceilings wouldn't fall down. And I had gotten a call from the contractor that I had previously worked with saying, things are really crazy over here. They got us to do extra work. In good faith, we did it. And there was no change order and none came. And so we're out $25,000. And this isn't right. And it's not what our contract says. They're going against all of this.
So, in the process here, so people have replaced you, new companies coming in, then actually cost more money
Right.
than if we'd have left everything just the way it was.
Right.
With the new
Plus,
companies, the people, the replacements.
I don't
the
think they
outsourcing.
were getting, I'm sorry, the peer review from anyone representing the state. That was before things went to bid.
So at the end of the day, not only did we have no more construction oversight, it actually cost us more money.
Exactly.
Taxpayers.
Yeah. I felt there was no check and balance system anymore.
Senator,
Yeah.
I can forward this on to Senator Peterson, but I did a open records request because part of our layoff said they were going to save X amount of dollars, blah, 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 blah. I said, how did you come to that calculation? Can you send me that information? So this is shortly after we were laid off. I did an open records request with DAS, and this is what they sent me. Chicken scratching on a piece of paper, real professional. This is their savings calculator, right here. This is what they sent me. I'm just saying, they laid off all of us based on this, because they said they were going to save money. This is what they said.
Could we get a copy of that?
Yeah, I can forward that on to Senator. I'll support it on to Senator Peterson.
We can actually have one made right now.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, just a continue.
Dean, are you online yet?
Yes,
Dean, can you tell me a little bit more about a 3-sentence RFP that was given to hire an entire firm to replace another firm? What were the 3 sentences? They must have been something.
I don't exactly remember other than, I can't remember it. Other than it was very vague, we're looking for an architectural engineering firm, I think. And it turned out that they were looking to hire a firm for the Iowa Veterans Home project, which already had an architectural firm in place. That would have been in about June, July of 2011, and I believe Paul Carlson put it together.
So Mr. Carlson put together the RFP that was awarded by DAS, and if that was the case, then we had to assume that Mr. Carroll accepted this?
I presume so. At that time, I was not totally in the loop. I was in the loop enough to know there was a very simple RFP being issued.
Thank you, Dean.
Senator McCoy.
Thanks. I'm following up on, Dean, if I could, I'm following up on some of the questions that Senator Shane John just asked. And I was familiar with the Iowa Veterans Home. I was familiar, who was the architect of record prior to the RFP going out?
Schemmer Associates.
Okay, and at the time the RFP was issued, do you happen to know how many bidders responded to that RFP on the?
No.
And do you know the? Do you have?
I know that the work went to OPM.
Okay. Tony, if you could jump in here, do you happen to have any background on the RFP for the Iowa Veterans Home? Because there was a change midstream. There were some complaints made about the design and construction, and there was a sense that they needed to change directions. Who made that decision, and what were the criticisms?
Senator McCoy, I was not involved with the Iowa Veterans Home. All I can recall is remember seeing the RFP posted on DAS's website, and it was, it may have been 5 sentences, but it was very short, is all I recall.
Is that unusual?
Very unusual, yes. Usually, as you know, in state government or any government agency, usually it's pages and pages and pages.
And why is that?
Presumably to ensure the state gets the most qualified, cheapest bidder.
And in terms of these thresholds that were mentioned, I'm interested in the $5,000 threshold that was mentioned is not triggering more requirements in the bidding process.
Right. I've been out of government now for 3 years, so I believe the requirement is if it's a service, request for service, which an architect, engineer would be a request for service. If it's less than $50,000, it technically doesn't, you can get informal bids, if you will. It doesn't have to go through the process of posting on DAS's website and go through that formal process. $5,000, I believe I can just give it to you if I choose. There is no, that's the threshold, I believe, unless it's changed.
Okay. And Ken, I guess getting over to you, you had indicated that your position was outsourced. Some of your responsibilities, obviously, some of your responsibilities were transferred to the security manager for principal. But in terms of your day-to-day job, you're an engineer. I mean, you're a boiler engineer. You have certification as it relates to boilers. What are your professional credentials?
Well, I'm an Iowa licensed mechanical and electrical contractor. I'm a biomedical engineer, and the reason for that is we have the Iowa labs, and I was specifically hired for the Iowa labs as a biomedical engineer to make sure their accreditations were okay.
So when you went away, that left a hole that needed to be filled, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that hole was filled by a private firm.
Yes.
And you indicated that firm was paid $200,000 a year.
That's what I understand. I don't know if that amount is exact, but that's what I've heard. I don't have any documents to that effect.
Okay.
And I don't know. Also, they had to have somebody at the Iowa labs to do certifications on airflows. I don't know who did that. So there's actually 2 private consulting people and Mr. Gross that filled my job.
And what was Gross qualified to do that you did?
Maybe some security things, but I really didn't do much security. I did, the door locks were part of my purview. He may have done that. I'm not sure. He may have been qualified, but other than that, he's not qualified. And I wanted to tell you that the DAS went so far as that in the state law, the state says that if you have state buildings in a municipality, and the municipality requires licensed operators to operate the boiler, that the state will comply with the local code. That's what we're supposed to do. They went to the city of Des Moines, and they got the city of Des Moines. They told the city of Des Moines that they wanted to delete that local code because they were going to claim eminent domain. They claimed eminent domain, and they no longer have to have licensed people to do anything on this complex.
Is that a safety concern?
Very much so.
Why?
We're not messing with small things here. The electrical distribution system on the Capitol complex, Mid-American Energy delivers it to a point, and all the rest of the distribution system is controlled by the state. It's owned by the state. So is the steam, so is the water, so is everything else.